Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Five9 Intelligent Virtual Agent presentation. My name is Cameron James, and I am the Regional Sales Manager for Western Canada with Unity Connected Solutions. I'd like to welcome to as my co-host today is Lad Wimmer, who's our Solution Specialist with Five9. Good morning, Lad.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Good stuff. Nice to have you. Lad will be providing us with a live demo of the IVA application as part of this 30-minute presentation. And a note that we will be recording this session to make it available as an on-demand video if you missed anything or weren't able to attend the event live. So let's get started. So the agenda for today is pretty straightforward. I'll explain what a Five9 IVA or Intelligent Virtual Agent actually is. We'll look at what's driving the movement from traditional IVRs or integrated voice response systems to IVA. And we'll also look at at some ways that IVAs could be deployed within your environment. And finally, we'll follow all of that up with a live demo on the technology. So by way of a definition, an IVA is a self-service virtual assistant application that leverages conversational artificial intelligence to automate manual tasks and answer common questions that your customers are asking. An IVA provides natural language artificial intelligence engines that support over 120 languages and dialects. And like I was explaining to my 15-year-old son the other day, I was talking to him about the technology, and he said, so it's Siri. And yeah, it is kind of like that. But over and above that, it also offers multi-channel capability, leveraging chat and SMS to provide self-service options beyond just voice. And an IVA provides back-end integration to customer databases, CRM, and ERP applications for leveraging and providing real-time value. Five9 IVA leverages an easy-to-use, browser-based drag-and-drop environment for designing and managing tasks for your virtual agents. It makes it easy for IT support staff to build out their own self-service applications quickly and easily. Oops. So with all this technology at our fingertips, we find that most organizations are still forced an entirely different experience on their customers. We've all experienced the dreaded IVR applications, and when we're calling into contact centers or places that we're conducting business with. And by continuing to use these traditional IVRs, organizations, the vast majority of contact center solutions in place today have not kept pace with these advancing technologies. And this lack of advancement has become a source of frustration for customers. The desire to improve the customer experience, reduce the time to resolve issues, and minimize frustration and reduce costs are some of the reasons organizations are turning to IVAs. So given all the advantages, there's no surprise that most businesses are embracing IVAs, or more businesses rather are embracing IVAs. There's improved customer service is a key deliverable when deploying an IVA solution by providing IVA self-service applications which can deliver far greater customer interaction, engagement, and resolution. Costs are reduced when implementing an IVA, as on average an IVA costs less than 20% that of a live agent, which we'll explain a little bit later on in the presentation in terms of that realized value. A Five9 IVA will also provide compliancy for PCI and data security standard for credit card transactions, and it's also HIPAA compliant. Around the item of increased revenue, what we're leveraging is an IVA is able to answer repetitive questions and provide information easily via back-end integration, which frees up live agents so that they can focus on selling and customer retainment. We've passed the tipping point that 98% of people now would prefer not to interact directly with a person if they can get that answer from an IVA or a self-service type of portal application. Obviously, if they can't get that information, they could be directed further on to talk to a live agent. But that's the sort of the evolving standard is where the industry and really where the public is pushing for this technology to be advanced. So Five9 is a. I'll just explain essentially how the ecosystem of Five9 fits into the Five9 IVA. So Five9 is a cloud contact center solution. It offers inbound, outbound voice, email, chat, SMS, call routing, and it integrates into CRM, ERP systems. It has workflow automation, workflow optimization, and artificial intelligence all integrated tightly into this enhanced suite of products. And then the logical extension of that is they have the IVA application, which is added on as yet another deliverable around the integrated suite of applications. So this can all be delivered from a Five9 solution. However, if you're in this instance for our IVA application and even the IVA application for Five9, we can leverage this as a standalone IVA application that enhances your existing contact center solution. IVA can be integrated into a legacy contact center infrastructure to enhance the customer experience and avoid those repetitive tasks and questions and free up your live agents for high touch value engagements. So is this a fit for you? If you currently have an inbound and outbound based contact center with medium to large volume of calls, IVA can enhance that inbound and outbound experience with self-service portal applications, alert notifications, appointment reminders for outbound purposes. Do you have an extensive or complicated IVR menu system in place today that's typically driving your customers crazy? Do you require multiple language support is another driver of the technology. Are callers bypassing your IVR options and just simply pressing 0 out of frustration to try to reach a live person? And do you have a predictable or even perhaps an unpredictable spike in call traffic to your call centers or websites? All of those could be a potential driver and fit for instituting an IVA application. So where do you start? You can start by adding an IVA, as I mentioned previously, to your existing contact center solution. An IVA sitting at the front end of your existing contact center can easily add increased value to your customer. So it means that you don't always or necessarily have to forklift your entire investment into your contact center solution. You can augment that and just simply add that aspect to the existing environment. Where you would look to start is by finding repetitive tasks that you're dealing with, that your contact center staff more specifically are dealing with today that could be easily automated. And what are some of the greatest pain points and quick fixes within your organization? That's a good place to start. Expand by finding more tasks to automate and just simply add those as add-on applications within the IVA. And some common IVA applications that I've got pictured here, I've got you could embed frequently asked questions directly right into the IVA. You could have a claims processing or order status mechanism for the self-serve IVAs or address changes. Those are all good examples of where those applications could fit. And then I just wanted to run through an example of a high-level comparison comparing using live agents for all calls to the contact center versus leveraging virtual agents. So we're going, in this example, we're assuming 1,000 incoming calls every 30 minutes, an average hold time of 120 seconds. So in an organization using live agents, where we have, in this example, 82 live agents, the breakdown is really a key critical element of the total cost of the solution. Of course, is providing is paying for the labor for those agents that are sitting in the seats and answering those calls. There are inherently software costs that are associated to each of the agents as well, and a total monthly cost to the customer in this example works out to $290,000 a month. And by contrast, when we look at a virtual agent, utilizing, if we were able to leverage and take 82 of the live agents that we have in place today and move those over into a virtual agent, our labor cost is driven immediately to 0. We're not paying for those IVAs beyond the software costs, which are shown just immediately below that. And then the total cost, it pales in comparison just in terms of looking at the labor costs versus the software cost of an IVA. Lad, anything to kind of add to that slide as we transition? The next slide we're going to look at is just moving directly into our demo.
Yeah, I guess what I would say about these things is a lot of times you may not want to replace the whole your whole environment. So IVAs become kind of an add-on to augment your staff, and particularly at this time with COVID, where you may have overwhelming demand for certain product sets and you don't have the ability to hire staff. That kind of does different things to the cost of what you're doing. So not only can we replace, but we can enhance existing staff. So this is a good example of if we were to replace everything and have your customers be able to self-service everything, you can get a pretty substantial savings in the environment. So, but it's not just about replacing, it's about enhancing as well. So that's the only comment I would have there.
Yeah, no, that's a key point, because in reality, you know, the agents that we're looking at here, 82, would not, in this entire example, wouldn't necessarily represent the entire magnitude of staff that they have. We're looking at taking and isolating a certain aspect of that for those IVA type of requests that could be answered, and offloading that. So yeah, good point. That's for sure. So with that, Lad, then I'm going to just transition back over to you, and if you can take us through a demo of what that portal and what the whole deliverable suite looks like.
Will do. So I have now taken over the screen. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. If not, then you'll be able to hear me talk about this. So the biggest question that I get asked the majority of the time when I'm starting to talk about virtual agents is, what's a virtual agent and where can I use it? And as we've kind of talked about already in this webinar, there are things that are naturals for doing this. And so within the Five9 IVA, what we've done is we've tried to help you out in your process of thinking about, how do I take advantage of this in my contact center environment? So the Five9 IVA is run by what's called a task. And so as you can see here, we have 3 different types of tasks. So we're not just talking about automating your voice environment, but we can also automate messaging tasks. So for example, if you have SMSs that you want to send out, which could be big for some marketing things, where maybe you're doing a marketing event, you want to push out SMSs to a bunch of people. It's a great way to do that. We also work with chatbot tasks. So if you have a chat environment and you want to automate some of that, we can also create some of this stuff within the chatbot tasks. But kind of to help you guys think about where I would do this and how I'm going to automate this and why I would automate this stuff, we've kind of done something to help you out. So inside of our tasks, we have a way to add a task. And what we've done is our customers have asked us, what type of things can we automate? So inside of our system, we've actually created a task library of very common things that our customers are asking us to do. So you can see over here, employee opinion survey, and just surveys in general. A lot of times people are wanting to send out surveys post-call, or surveys in particular with a text type message. So we have something that's created specifically for just doing surveys. This one comes up a lot in support organizations. So one of the things that you'll recognize about a support organization is the worst thing that can happen is if you're taking a support call, or a customer has a Sub4 call where they want an answer now, and they don't hear anything back. And so what this support ticket update does is it actually will go out and it will send a message out to your customer of the status. So you don't have to be picking up a phone every 30 minutes to say, hey, we're getting this. And more often than not, when a Sub4 comes up or something really happens, you got the CEO calling. So it's a very stressful time. So this helps offload one of those mundane tasks that we're kind of talking about there. If you're doing business and you have VIP customers and you want to route them quickly, that's another way to do it. Biometrics is another thing that we're starting to see a lot of, particularly outside of the US and Canada, but inside in Europe and Asia, this is actually almost all of what they do. So you're seeing a lot in banking where biometrics are used, as opposed to using PINs or social security numbers or ways to authenticate a person. And they're much more secure because it's like a fingerprint, and you're not going to steal somebody's voice in order to do that. So we see that coming up a lot. And then making payments, creating Salesforce, integrating with Salesforce, to do data dips, to pull in information in and out. So obviously these are a bunch of different things that we've created that you can kind of get a starting point with. And what I like to do normally is I like to show people how easy it is to create one of these bots or one of these chat bots or IVAs from scratch. And so we're going to do that. And then I'm going to actually show a demo of one that is actually created, and it's actually a multilingual banking application where we have the opportunity to ask questions in different languages. So I'm actually going to choose this natural language call steering, and I'm going to call the task, just call it NLU, and then I'm going to give extra letters in there. Doesn't actually matter. It's your name. You're calling it whatever you want. And then we're going to choose the language. And as I'm talking about languages here, we have the option for over 100 different languages to support that. So if you're multinational, obviously in Canada you have French and English that you support, but maybe there's some Spanish in there. Maybe you have pockets of other places around the world that are in your area where you support other languages. So we can choose those languages. So I'm going to choose US English. No Canadian English, sorry. I don't think it says A or stuff like that, but and then I can choose a voice. So I'm going to choose the Google voice just because I like Google, and I choose the first one because that's the first one on the list. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And so what you're going to see is if I were to start from scratch, where would I go with this? How would I do different things? And so this kind of gives you a starting point. So the reason why I use this one is the most common thing that most of you guys are thinking about is if I go into an IVR today, normally I'm going to get a menu system of how press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3, press 4. And me as a consumer, and I'm a terrible consumer when it comes to contact centers. If I get into one of those menu trees and there's like 6 or 7 different prompts, I've already, by the time I'm halfway in, I've forgotten prompt number 2 or prompt number 3, which may have been what I'm doing. And then I get frustrated. And by the time I actually hit the person that I'm ready to talk with, I'm really mad. And so what we're doing with this natural language call steering is instead of using that menu system, we're using natural language. So this node right here is called a cloud text to speech. We're capturing what a person is saying, and then we're directing it based off of what they said, as opposed to them make a choice. So they're making different things. So this is kind of a start from scratch thing. So if I were to play this right now, it will work, and it will do exactly what it says it's going to do. So I'm actually going to kind of kick it off. You're going to hear what it's going to sound like, and then based off of that, we're going to make a couple modifications to this. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off.
Welcome to our company. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I need to talk to technical support.
Transferring you to technical support. Please hold.
Okay, so you just heard this is a non-existent task that we just created in roughly 2 minutes. So when we have this task, we can actually modify things inside of this task. So I like starting in prompts with people because one of the important things is you as a consumer, you as a company being able to modify this in a simple and easy process. So I just went into this prompt. I'm actually going to change the prompt so that it sounds different. So we're going to change this to welcome to Five9 Bank. And then what I can do while I'm doing this is I can actually listen to what it's going to sound like.
Welcome to Five9 Bank.
Okay, so if I like that, great, I can save that and do other things with it. But as you're doing your things and as you're creating your experience for your customers, there are things that you might want to do here. So for example, you may want to go out and say somebody's name. So inside of the system, we have the ability to call a variable. So if we know the person that's calling in, and we know the phone number, and we can do a lookup inside of your backend CRM or whatever, we can grab their name and we can say that in here. So if I do this double pipe, these are what's called variables inside of our system. So these variables allow us to call things, say inside of your CRM, so Salesforce, or pick your poison of CRM. We can go in and choose things that we've created. So in this case, we've created some variables that exist here. I don't think I have name in here, but I can capture utterance. So utterance, basically, that is whatever the person says. So I'm capturing that. And so let's say we're going to talk about a PO, right? And somebody wants to issue us a PO, or they're calling up to check on the status of a PO. So a PO generally sounds something like 1, 2, 3, PO number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If I were to type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this one, a bot hears that different than a human might, and we want to make sure it sounds like a human might say it. So if I were to hit this preview audio here.
Welcome to Five9 Bank 123,456.
So I don't necessarily want it to sound like that. I don't want to sound like 123,000. I actually want it to sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These features over here on the side enable you to modify it so it sounds more human. It sounds more like a person might say things. So if I highlight the text right here and do a say as and hit characters, now if I do my preview
Welcome
my audio,
to Five9 Bank 123,456.
In that simple interaction, I've actually modified what I'm going to say here. So the power here is I can pull in information from outside sources. I can make it sound more human. I can change the pitch. I can change emphasis on words. I can put pauses in here. I can change how fast it's read in here. So all of those are things that make this sound more human and more like your customers will want to hear it. Because honestly, while we talked about in the deck that a lot of people are used to talking to Siri and then talking to the other, sometimes when they call up a support line, they still kind of want to hear something that sounds like a human, or they don't want to get stuck with a bot. So the more human we can make it, the better it sounds, the better we can do things, the better for the solution. So I'm actually going to go ahead and save this. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm just going to show you this. So this is the voices that we can do. And in English voices, you can see we have a ton of options. So male, female, and they all sound different. There's IBM voices. There's what's called the Lumenvox voice, Google voices, but you can see Spanish here. You can see French. You can see Japanese. So a lot of different options here on voices. And what's kind of interesting here is there's variations of those voices. So let me give you a small example from one of our customers. So I'm bilingual English and Spanish. I speak a kind of rusty Spanish right now. And I was working with a customer of ours down in Peru. And we actually built a demo out for them where we're using Spanish or Spain Spanish. And Spain Spanish sounds different than it does there. And talking with them, they said, we don't like how Spain Spanish sounds. We don't like, so when they say a Z or a C, it sounds like a TH sound. And they really don't like the sound of that in Latin America. So they said, give us a different voice. So within the voices, you have choices of different voices here. So you can have French Canadian voices, you got French voices inside of that. So it gives you the option of choosing different voices. So I'm going to go ahead and save this right here. I'm going to go ahead and save this here again. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is the ease of actually enhancing that voice experience that you've just created. So I just created this thing and we went down this technical support path. So let's say I want to add another path. So your business, they need something else they want to add to what they're doing. So I've got sales, I've got technical support, I've got billing. So I want to add a new way to go within this flow. So let's say I want to go into operations, or in this case, let's just say mortgage. And then I'm going to go ahead and this field right here that I just filled out is that next path that I'm going within this flow, right? So what comes after somebody chooses this, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then now I've created this whole new path that I can go down. So in these, we're logging out what people say, and then you got billing, and I could copy and paste these over into here. But what I can do is I can go and edit this prompt that I've created. And I can go ahead and hit a new prompt, and I'm going to go call this one mortgage just because that's what I called it over there. And just to show you how quickly we can do things, I'm going to transfer to mortgage. And I'm not going to put in the full sentence because you guys don't want to watch me type today.
No problem.
But I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and I'm going to go ahead and add this and save. And so now we've created this. So this didn't exist 5 minutes ago. We've created this. I've modified up here this prompt. I've created a new way to go in here. And so I'm now going to go ahead and I'm going to call this again, and you're going to hear what happens and how quickly you can make modifications to this.
Welcome to Five9 Bank. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I need to talk to the mortgage department.
Transfer to mortgage.
Okay, so you just saw how quickly and easily that I was able to create this new menu system without having to press one for this, press that. It was easy. we're able to capture what the customer is saying, and actually we can store the information in what we call data stores, and what we can actually capture the transcription of what's going on. We can actually capture what a person actually said, because it's a bot. Sometimes the bots get things wrong, but if you have a way to go and listen to that, so we can actually go into these utterances, listen to what it said, and then make changes. And that's important in bot world, because in a bot, things like people's names, multilingual or stuff like alphanumeric sequences, they become challenging for a bot. So if we have a way to listen to that, to make the bot smarter, then we can. So that's kind of a demo of something that we created this from scratch. So I'm going to show you another demo that one of my coworkers made. It's actually a small banking demo, and it's actually a multilingual banking demo. And within this multilingual banking demo, you have the option of going down any one of 4 paths based off of language, obviously. And there's a neat thing that we did inside of this. So instead of you having to need somebody who knows French or Spanish or all that, what he did is he actually tied it back to the API, or tied it back to Google Translate. And so what he did is, whatever the English is, or whatever a person says, he sends it off to Google Translate. It translates it, brings it back, and then we continue the flow. And we're using a thing called Google Dialogflow. And Google Dialogflow is an AI engine. And the nice thing about our solution is we can use multiple AI engines. In this case, we're using Dialogflow, but we could use Amazon Lex if you're an Amazon people. We can use IBM Watson. We can use some of the other ones out there. I have the customer that I was talking about in Peru. They actually used Microsoft's Luis for theirs, where they integrated in with that so they could use that. But we can use any of these engines to enhance that. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to kick off the thing, and you can see the flow of this kind of looks similar. You got a menu item right here. We're going to say some things in here, and you're going to hear kind of a flow of banking. And I speak Spanish, so I don't know if other people speak Spanish, but I'm actually going to do it in English for everybody. For you French people out there, I can't speak French. I know we've got another person on the call. I actually was listening to Google Translate on French, and I'm like, oh, there's no way I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to kick this off. You're going to hear the flow of what we're going to do, and then we'll come back here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off.
Thank you for calling Five9 Bank. This is a demo of multilingual conversational NLU. Press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, 3 for French, or 4 for Japanese. In a few words, how can I help you?
Yeah, I want to check my balance.
What account do you want the balance for? Savings or checking?
Checking.
Here's your latest balance, $800.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
All right, and so with this flow, you kind of heard me go through this whole process where I went through all this. So if I were to do the same thing in English, Spanish, French, Japanese, the same type of flow would happen. And so what we're doing is we're using kind of this dialogue flow that I mentioned. And inside of dialogue flow, we actually have these tasks that we've created. So this bot is an intelligent bot. It's learning things. So we talked about when we went to balance. And inside of dialogue flow, you make sentences that you think your customers are going to say. So what is my balance? What do I owe? How much do I owe on my account? And so we're looking for these. So the bot is actually looking for these parameters, and we're actually calling the bot to say, here, this is what I got, and then they give responses back. And so this one in particular is, which account are you calling about? So you heard that within the flow, right? You heard which account are we talking about, and then the flow continued and it gave me my actual balance. So if you can think about this in your own environment, what do you have out there that you want to use? So we can take the information that we have inside of here, and we can take variables, we can take values, and we can read them back. So we can data dip into your banking system, your CRM system. Maybe you don't have some of those. Maybe you have a database, but you've got an API that you can call back into that. So whatever data source you're using when do that. The other thing that I think is kind of neat within this, and this is part of what we can provide as part of the IVA solution for you is the ability to pull in frequently asked questions. And we're using Dialogflow to do this. But the nice thing about Dialogflow is I can actually go to your website, I can pull in these things, and then I can create those intents, these things that we're saying. And those intents now become a rapid way of answering those annoying questions that you get all the time, but you don't want to spend time, you don't want to have an agent spending time on. So for example, this first guarantee one, we went out to a website, and you can see that we pulled it from this website right here. We have this text, an HTML, it's a FAQ, and you can see that website had all this information. So if I go back to these intents, I've created all these. I can actually grab this one, or I can grab them all, convert them over to an intent, and now within my system, I've got all these things. If somebody asks me about how can I apply for a loan, then this is already pre-programmed in here. So my inference, I can call that, bring it back in, do whatever I want with it. So it's very powerful, and it enables you to be smart, to grow. And so kind of like your Siri, kind of like the other stuff, it's constantly learning, it's adding new things to it. We're using kind of these back-end engines to help, but that enables you to make these things almost human-like. And so right now and early on in what you're doing, maybe it's an easy thing that you're doing. And maybe you pick use cases that are not quite so complex. But as you go through a time, obviously bots get more intelligent, obviously things get better, and your experience that you can provide for your customers gets better. So a couple things I want to close on here. I'm kind of done with the demo, but what I wanted to say is, if you're looking to make an impact with your customers, and COVID has actually kind of forced a lot of people into this, using an IVA enables you to make things easier for your customers. Instead of having to go and do verifications of names and whatnot, you can have the bot do it. Instead of having to go through the menu system, you can create a natural language flow to that, and all those make it easier for your customers. And the name of the game anymore is you got to be agile and do what your customers want, because they're very willing and very able to go to somebody else, and knowledge is out there. They can grab it from anywhere. So if you can make the solution simple and easy for them to use, you're going to have a lot of power within what you're doing. And the last thing that I'm going to say about here is, this is a flexible environment. We can help you build it out. The guys that we're working with today, they're very knowledgeable about this stuff, and they can help you determine what's the right thing to do. Where do you start? What are you going to do with that? And as we talk with you guys, and as we figure out your use cases, you'll find out that there's a lot you can do. And like I mentioned COVID a few times, and I'm going to close with kind of an example from one of my customers. So I had a customer of mine that was a gaming PC provider. And when COVID hit, there was a bunch of people sitting around that could not leave their house. And strangely enough, in this world, there's a lot of people who like to game. And their big problem is, hey, I've got these gaming systems and they're on back order now because we had the problem with microchips and all that. And people were trying to figure out where their gaming system is, and they were completely slammed. They had a small contact center environment, and they were having abandon rate of like 40% of their calls. And a lot of them were just because people were trying to figure out where their stuff was, or they wanted to order something. And they just didn't have the staff to do what they needed to do. So they came to us and said, hey, how can you help us? And so we put in a solution, a simple one. We're going to go and take all the calls that are specifically just around where's my gaming system? What's the status of my order? And in doing that, it made it so they didn't have to go train a bunch of extra people, but it took enough off that their abandon rate, their wait time, it went down pretty drastically, and they were able to satisfy their customers. So with that, I'm going to kind of close up to say your business is kind of like that. You have something, maybe you have this thing like COVID that's causing issues. Maybe you have something else in your environment that you would want to make easier for your customers. This is a way that we do it. We make things easier for your customers. We enable you to automate Maybe you have some automation already. Maybe you already have an IVR that works really well, but you want to insert it someplace in there. This is a way to kind of enhance what you're doing. So with that, I'm actually going to stop sharing and turn the time back over to Cameron to kind of close us off.
No, that's terrific, Lad. I mean, you know, what always impresses me every time I see these demos is really just around the fact that, you know, the simplicity of being able to create that the fluidity and efficiency to be able to put something like this into place and have it immediately impact on your business is so profound. So and the fact that, you know, as we've highlighted here, it can very much live as a standalone application, which is you know, powerful in and of itself. So in closing, I think the key takeaways really are around, you know, businesses with IVAs are missing out on a better customer experience. You don't have to go big.
Here, Cam. Can you just share your presentation again, please?
Yeah, I sure can. Sorry about that. Let's go there and share. How's that? Thanks, Brooke. Again, the big takeaways here are businesses without IVAs are missing out better customer experience. You don't have to go big. You can start by addressing the biggest pain points, perhaps and the quickest fixes within your own organization. And IVAs are flexible, extremely fast, and easy to implement and provide significant value to customers, as Lad's shown in the demo. Whoops. Navigate here. So in wrapping up and in closing, I'd like to thank everyone for their attending the session today and the presentation. I hope you found it very informative, and you know, it may inspire you to and motivate you to, you know, move toward further inquiries around this technology. I think it's very profound, game-changing, absolutely. For further information, please reach out to myself directly or, you know, into our sales group at Unity Connected Solutions for further information. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Lad. Appreciate your time as well.